If you take a look at eBay for 5300 Gs, you'll notice a lot of open box PCs, specifically HP Pavilions. At first I wasn't sure why, and then I noticed almost all of them said they were missing the dedicated GPU. And so looking at the HP website, and you can see that this computer normally comes with a 5500 XT, or you can even outfit it with 1660 Super from NVIDIA. And yeah, this is basically a brand new computer, but missing the PCIe card GPU. So I wanted to see how this did in games without that GPU installed. So starting here with Overwatch, and at low settings, 1080p, and we can see we're hovering right around the 60 FPS thing. So down into the 50s, maybe the high 40s at times. But for the most part, we are playing 60 FPS Overwatch on an integrated graphics, which I think is pretty cool. And it's definitely something that was not possible a few years ago. If you did want to play at a little bit higher frame rate, or if you wanted to play it a little bit smoother, you can actually change the resolution scaling to auto, and that will change it between 50% and 100%. And so doing that and limiting the frame rate to whatever your monitor refresh rate is a great way to maximize performance, as well as not really hurting image quality too much. And you can see, you can barely tell the difference between the two. Going to an older game like Sonic Generations, which is over 10 years old at this point, and maxed out, you can see that we're playing about the same as Overwatch, something like high 40s, low 50s for the most part, not quite hitting 60 FPS. So if you really wanted to hit 60 FPS in this game, you'd have to probably just drop down a few settings since we're already at max. But for the most part, this game is very playable on an integrated GPU nowadays. Dirt 3 is a racing game from around the same era too, and it has a really great built-in benchmark. So 1080p, all maxed out, 8 times anti-aliasing, and we're somewhere around the 30 FPS mark, mostly in the high 20s. Not necessarily great for a racing game, but it actually performs pretty well. The frame rate's pretty stable. You can see the frame time graph is mostly a flat line, so that's actually not that bad. If you wanted more FPS though, you actually can just go down to medium, still keeping 1080p and dropping anti-aliasing, and suddenly we're at around 100 FPS. And between the two, there isn't a whole lot of difference in terms of visuals. This game really holds up even on the lowest quality, so you could go even higher if you needed to. But for the most part, yeah, you're dropping it down to medium, and you're well above 60 FPS all the time. Torchlight 2 is kind of representative of a lot of overhead games, like something like League of Legends and a lot of Diablo-style clones. And for the most part, 1080p maxed out, we're going to be somewhere in the upper 40s, low 50s again. Sometimes we'll get all the way up to 70 FPS when there's like nothing really going on. But for the most part, when you were going into battles and stuff like that, you are going to drop down to maybe even as low as 30, especially and below if the screen gets really, really hectic, which these games often do. So at this point, you can say that the game is playable all maxed out, but if you really wanted to keep close to 60 FPS, you'd probably want to turn down some of the visual effects. Okay, so those were all older games. How about something new? So Halo Infinite, something came out at the very end of 2021, and we are seeing it here. All settings turned to the lowest possible they have, and then render scaling at 100%. Of 1080p. And you can see even here in the menu, we are getting a little bit of inconsistent frame pacing, and jumping into game, that really continues. So still mid 30s and maybe topping out at around 40 FPS, but the frame times are very, very inconsistent. It's not necessarily the best experience in the world playing it on this integrated GPU, just because of the inconsistent frame timing. And turning down the render scaling as low as it'll go, which is 71% or 767p. And if you look at the frame time graph, look at the FPS, it is about the same all the way through. Haven't really gained anything in here. So At this point, it's safe to say that this game probably won't get any better than this unless you really wanted to go to unplayable resolutions, but it technically does play. I paid $260 for this computer, and I think at that point it is a pretty good deal. You can play games on this computer as is, as you've seen, but especially if you're planning on adding in like a mid-tier card in the future, this does give you a nice base to start out with.